Stigbürt von Thundercock. It's an MG ZT190. That means it has a 2.5 litre KV6 engine and nearly 190 brake horsepower. Yep, doesn't sound like absolutely loads, does it? And it's not, but it's absolutely fantastic to drive. However, the MOT is somewhat short, and before I go and book it in there and waste my money, I'm going to have a quick check over to see if there's anything untoward. Good. Yep, I can't find anything wrong under there. There's a bit of surface rust on some of the suspension components, but that's natural. Bit of spring corrosion on the front. I've no plane on anything, and of course the tyres are all good. So I can't see why there'd be any real issue with this car's MOT. Stigbürt MOT booked in for tomorrow. Yes, I must admit to being really rather keen on this car. Really rather keen indeed. It's seriously handsome and it drives fantastically. And that's why I've decided to swap it. Of course, when I say I've decided, what I mean is that somebody else has actually made me an offer that I rather like. I mean, I rather like this car. I rather like it a lot. And with a brand new MOT on it.
Oh yes, that's the bit I forgot to mention. Stigbürt went for its MOT and of course passed.
That's normally the time where you think, let's keep hold of this one because it's good. Yeah, but I'm not doing. It's going. It's going. So I'm finishing this video off with a quick drive round in it, just so I can enjoy it that last time. So I had myself something to think about. The time I had a ZT190. To give myself that memory of, oh, I wish I'd kept hold of that. That was a cracking car, that. Yeah, like you do with many, many other cars. But on this channel, I like to keep things moving. And I don't do it for me, I do it for you. Yeah, I make sure there are different things going on this channel just so that my viewers have something to watch. And preferably something that benefits me a little bit as well. So let me tell you of the swap. I'll tell you a little bit of the swap. It isn't something out of the ordinary. It isn't something that you wouldn't expect me to have. The colour is a lot more interesting. The engine is a lot smaller. It's a lot more humble. And it would be considered as being valued at quite a lot less, except for just a couple of things. One of those things is that everything that you could possibly have had to do to it has been done. Whereas this ZT, of course, is quite good, but it's not perfect. This swap that's happening tomorrow, I can't say as I'm really excited by it, but with what I'm doing, it's really about keeping things moving and keeping the money trickling, because it's not a straight swap. It's the car in question plus a little bit of money, which is enough to cover the bills again. Living hand to mouth is a truly exciting thing, and it means that you can never be entirely relaxed. You've always got to be on your feet, ready for the next thing to happen. And I am, most definitely. And I'm not complaining, and I'm not begging, I'm just telling you what's going on. So in the morning, the swap's going to be happening. And then, in a couple of days, I'll show you the new acquisition. Whilst possibly into the third day of this actually short video, plenty of other activities have been happening. It's a confusing thing for me, but what isn't confusing is being in this car. So this is my replacement for Stigbürt, which is a Rover, which you can tell by the sound and by the clocks and everything else, but I haven't told you what it is yet. It's because I like the old dangle game, that's why. Keeping you waiting until the end, knowing that some of you are skipping, some of you aren't. And some of you may be smart enough to actually recognise the interior of this car. Yeah, you can see, if you know your old Rovers, it's an older one. 1 mile in to my new car, actually a mile and a half. Now, whenever I reset the trip counter, that's usually a good sign that it's another car I'd quite like to keep. But I'd like to keep it for selfish reasons, and that is that, well, I haven't got a proper retro car anymore. I did have Harry Seacombe, which of course then went to make way for a proper family car, which then went to make way for some other cars to make some sort of wage on, and that's how I've ended up with this, which well, this car is considered a lot less desirable than the MG ZT190, which has just gone. But then there was some money involved as well, which has been able to pull me back out of the poo again. Yes, the old weekly, monthly, yearly poo I find myself in. It's just a part of life. That's all it is. It's nothing to be afraid of. You've just got to keep finding a solution. And this is only a 1.4, but it doesn't half go well. Not only does it go well, but it's a really well sorted car. Now, my friend who owned this has spent quite a bit of money on it. He's not had it for he's had it for what, 9 months, something like that, maybe a year. And I have a list of things that he's done to it, things that he's spent money on, and none of it's particularly frivolous. It's just making them better, making them newer, new brakes, new wheels, new tyres, all of these kind of things. The only thing really remaining to be done on this car is going to be some cosmetic stuff and the cam belt, but I have the cam belt kit in the back, so I'll keep you hanging on no longer. Here it is. Some of my more dedicated or longer term followers may recognise this car as one of the Mustard and Boaty cars from last year. A car called Ian Paisley. I named it Ian Paisley because of the paisley pattern seats and the fact that it had a blowing back box when it was first dropped off and was a bit of a gobshite. But beyond the blowing exhaust, this was an exceedingly pleasant car, and it didn't take very long at all for somebody to say that they wanted it, and that person was indeed my friend Aaron from Scotland. It's always a pleasure to sell a car to Aaron because I know that car's going to get looked after. He's not afraid to put his hand into his pocket and spend the money. If he's got the money to do it, he'll just spend it on his car. And he's done it with this. He did it with a car called Alfie. He's done it with a car called Mrs. Doyle. And he did it with this car. And I know for definite he will be doing exactly the same thing with Stigbürt. So that is what I call a result. And he's worked his magic wallet onto this car very nicely because it drives wonderfully. It did actually drive well to start with, but it's done some other things to improve it. I know it's got new brakes, it's got new trailing arms on the back. I could go through the list of things it's had done to it, but I'm not going to, because it might take too long and I can't be bothered. Instead, I'm just going to show you some more of the car. No matter what I end up with in the course of what I am doing here, I always end up coming back to an old Rover. And of course, the older the better. The Rover 45 was the first car to be facelifted from something else and made to look older than its original. Although this does look so distinctly 90s, the 45 looks so distinctly retro. Yes, you are forgiven for thinking that I don't know my arse from my elbow and all I do is chop and change all the time. It's like, oh, Mustard, here's a different car, would you like to have this instead? Oh, yes please. Well, yeah, I can imagine some may think that all I'm interested in is it just being different from what it was yesterday. But there is more to it than that. A 400 like this in green it really is kind of perfect for me. I'm saying that now, knowing that when I get offered some money for it, the chances are I'm just going to say, yeah, alright then, I'll have some money instead of keeping the car. But at some point, I'm going to end up with something other than Nigel that I just hang on to. And this kind of fits that bill, as do so many other things that have a go of fitting that bill. I am stuck in this constant cycle of, well, that would do the job even better, etc. The ZT was a wonderful car, and it's because of the ZT why I have this one. The Peugeot was a wonderful car, and it's because of that Peugeot why I ended up with that ZT and the Land Rover and the 25. The Rover 600 called Harry Seacombe was a wonderful car, and it's because of that very car why I ended up with a Peugeot 407 SW. The Rover 45 diesel with a slightly suspect clutch was a wonderful car. And with that, I'm wondering whether I might actually just be at the end of the video without really knowing it. I could be, or maybe there's more waffle to come out. But let me just finish with this. Ian Paisley, so glad to have this car back, like I did with Harry Seacombe. It's lovely, it really is. And I'm enjoying driving it really calmly and proper Rover-like. Except for when I overtook that car before, because it was going too slowly. That's not Rover-like, unless I'm driving. So, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for being a subscriber, thank you especially for being a channel member. If you don't like me chopping and changing all the time, thank you for tolerating me. And if you do, thank you for liking it, because that's kind of what I do. And I'll see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow or the day after. Not sure. You decide.